When the Middle East crisis broke at the start of this year, many outcomes were predicted by a panicked commentariat in response to the U.S. drone strike on Iran's terrorist-in-chief, Qassem Soleimani. The various theories peddled by such observers fell into two broad camps: that war would inevitably result, or that the West would suffer from the wrath of an Iran united in grief for the loss of a great leader. Some particularly emotive souls even conflated both ideas into a combined critique of the foreign policy erraticism and adventurism of their much-loathed target, the Trump administration. In an extreme example of this phenomenon, London was last week subjected to a Corbyn-led rally of protesters who delighted in dusting off their old Stop the War hats, which should more properly be called Stop Some Wars, as it only appears to be conflicts threatening enemies of the West that these people ever want to prevent. What was emphatically not foreseen by most, however, was what actually happened: a stunning foreign policy triumph for President Trump, and the unmasking of the Iranians, at least in this round of hostilities, as a bungling paper tiger. To give some credit to pessimistic Western critics, the crisis might well have led to an expanded conflict. But this was always unlikely, because for the Iranians to have upped the ante to the next level would have meant inviting ever more devastating reactions from the Americans. What everyone appeared to have forgotten is that there is no equivalence of power between the US and Iran. On the contrary, Washington's military capabilities dwarf those of Tehran. The only real question was therefore whether the US would rise from its recent strategic torpor in the Middle East, and use them. This was answered by the Soleimani strike and Trump's threat to hit 52 targets in case of an Iranian escalation. Under such circumstances, an expanded conflict between the two countries, which would not have been a ground invasion but an air campaign designed to disrupt the Iranian regime's command and control abilities and hamper its ability to continue its repression of its own people, would have only ended with one outcome: the collapse of Iran's theocracy. It doesn't matter how many terrorist attacks or forms of unconventional warfare a country might be able to unleash if its ruling regime is unable to defend its power base on home soil. The Ayatollahs could see this clearly, which is why they pulled their punches by missiles striking empty bases in their rush for the exit ramp from conflict. All this should have been obvious were Western observers not blinded by the idea, or perhaps, in some egregious cases, hope, of perceived US decline. But even this myopia pales into comparison to the extraordinary assumptions made about the Iranian people's likely response to the death of Soleimani. A section of Iran's Pop. For more on this story, visit the news article link.